Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you today. We are working on this Bally Freedom pinball machine. Now, if you've seen us do videos of this one before, we had an entire series that we did on a game that was the same title, but it's not this exact one. And we've done one video on this one where we worked through it a little bit, or looked through it a little bit, and we figured out that basically it won't do anything. It's just kind of stuck where it's at right now. And so we're going to work through and service it and see if we can get it to work. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work down in the bottom of the cabinet. So I'm going to turn it off, take the Playfield out, and that'll open up everything in the bottom so we can get down there and start cleaning switches and relays. So let me pop the Playfield out and we'll see what it looks like inside. It's got the Playfield out, everything looks pretty good under it. Here's our cabinet. Needs to be vacuumed out a little bit. We'll knock that out. And there was a little bit of stuff in it. Some old pop bumper caps that I guess may have been the wrong ones. A few rubber rings. A spring. There was one screw. The schematics, we needed those. Those will help us fix it when we get to that point. And the manual. Very cool. Oh yeah, somebody made a copy of the rubber ring thing from the factory manual. Cool. Alright, so we're good. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to vacuum it out. Let's see if we can make it look just a little bit better. Okay, so that's a lot cleaner. Now, the only thing I noticed so far, this is different on different games too, so this isn't a definite for every game, but on these games, on these Ballys, they have a little light bulb socket on some of the relays. Okay. Now, what those are for, this is the over-the-top relay. And the light bulb is a 455 bulb. And if you look really close, let me get it where you can look really close. Let me see here. These are really neat little bulbs. The filament in it is made in such a way, okay, see the right side of the filament as you're looking at it? See how it's like a little blade that's bent way to the right, and then it touches that middle piece, and then the middle piece has a curly wire that goes over to the left piece. Okay? So that's a 455 bulb. Okay, now I'm going to show you another one that's in here. Okay, so this is a 47 bulb. See how there's two filaments that come up, or two wires that come up, and then they hold a filament between them? There's just two. So that's a typical light bulb. But this one, I could get it mocked up here where it'll stay in place so you can see the whole thing in all of its glory. There we go. Boy, it sure sounds like the glass is cracking that I'm leaning on. Okay, so you see how there's a filament on the right, like a blade that goes over? And then there is a filament in the middle and a filament on a wire in the middle, wire on the left with a filament between them, and then one on the right. And if you look here, there's just two of them with a filament between them. What's going on is this is a time delay bulb. It sends power through, and power goes through that right bent piece, which is touching the middle piece. It flows through the element, the coily looking twisty thing, and then down the left side, and the filament glows, and that's how a bulb works. But on this one, because it's using that little springy thing on the right, whenever it gets hot, that little thing on the right straightens out. And when it straightens out, it clicks. And it goes kind of straight, and it's no longer touching the center thing in the middle. That breaks the power going to the filament, and the light turns off. And then it cools off. And the little springy thing on the right bends again and hits the middle again, which makes the light come back on. And that's how they blink. So they come on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. So that's a timer. So the reason that they have these particular bulbs on these sockets is because they have the socket wired into the coil. So it's a way to make a relay turn on for just a small period of time. So remember, in these timing things and stuff like that, it's a little tricky to do. It's easy to turn something on. You just have a switch hit it, and then you can have it hold itself on with the switch on itself. So when it comes on, it holds the switch on itself, and it holds itself on. But to get the relay to come on, wait a little bit and then turn off, a little harder. So that one is the over-the-top relay. Now, we talked about that on the previous video, and we talked about it on our other Freedom videos too that we did on the other machine. There is a buzzer right here in the game, and whenever you get over 100,000 points, so you can only score up to 99,990 because the 0 is a dummy reel. So you can score 99,990 points. And when you get to 100,000, the over-the-top relay comes, the 100,000 relay for that player, let's say it's player 2, for player 2 comes on, which turns on the over-the-top relay through the bulb. So the power runs through the bulb, okay? And then it lights up it turns on the relay, which turns on the buzzer. And it makes this big noise. And then the bulb goes out because it heats up, and it's a blinker, so it breaks loose. So when the bulb goes out, it kills the power to the coil, to the relay, and turns the buzzer off. So that was just the way that they decided to do it. They also have this circuit, which is the delay circuit, which does a similar thing. That's kind of like a tilt thing. If you tilt the game, instead of it just killing everything, it turns everything off until the bulb opens up. So, 3 seconds or however long it takes. Well, if you're playing, that means you lose your ball because you can't flip or anything. And then you can everything goes black, everything's screwed up, and then you can start over again. So the problem is, a lot of people don't know that needs to be a blinking bulb. So like this one was in that one. Well, if you did this, if the game tilted, it would stay tilted for forever until you turned it off and back on, at least. Now on the over-the-top relay, if you had one of these in there instead of a blinking bulb, it would turn on the buzzer, bzzz, and eventually I guess it would burn up the bulb because it's only a 6-volt bulb, and the solenoids are running off whatever the solenoid voltage is. Hold on a second and I'll tell you. I guess it'll run it long enough for the bulb to open up, but no longer. Well, looks like 53 volts. Let's run 50 volts on the solenoid. So you run 50 volts through a 6-volt bulb. That ain't gonna work for long. Okay. So I noticed that right off the bat. Okay, so I'm gonna go through and start cleaning the relays. Basically, the switches, they just get filthy over time. So we use like a little file to clean them up. Now you don't want to go crazy on it. You can get like a contact burnisher you can buy from the parts places that's specifically made for cleaning it. And some of them have a little adjuster on one side so you can adjust the blades if they're not touching. But generally you want to clean both sides of the contacts so that whenever they touch each other, there's fresh stuff touching fresh stuff. Here's a good picture of contacts. Alright, so when you press the button, see how the smaller blade on the right moves whenever you touch it? Well, that way you know that it's pushing through it. You know, it's definitely touching it, definitely connected to it. All of these relays have the same exact thing going on, but some of them are closing when the relay comes in. Some of them are opening up when the relay comes in. And some of them are touching this blade when the relay's off and touching this blade when the relay comes in. It's got to be one of those three. It's got to be open and then closed, or closed then open, or open and closed and open. They can only do it a couple ways, you know. So you just want to make sure that all of those are clean, and then you get them all adjusted where they're pushing through each other, like that one was that we just looked at. Now, I wouldn't go through and adjust every switch. Just adjust the ones that look like they're way off. If you pull in the relay and it doesn't push the other switch, it's just not adjusted close enough. But you need to make sure that you don't adjust it so close that whenever the relay goes back, they're still stuck together. They have to open a little bit. So if you mess with one, you'll kind of figure it out. Now, we've done videos after videos trying to explain that concept. Whenever I first started working on them, that was a hard concept for me to grasp. I didn't understand how you could tell if the switch was supposed to be open or how you could tell if the switch was supposed to be closed. But the secret is, if they're open, when the relay pulls in, they should all close. If they're closed, they should open. If you've got one where you pull it in and something doesn't change, it's closed and it stays closed, it's not adjusted right. Or if it's open and you pull the relay in and it's still open, it's not adjusted right. So they should, all the open ones should close, all the closed ones should open. So that's what you're looking for. So I'm going to clean those up first, and then we'll talk about the score motor a little bit. Okay, folks, I worked all the way through them. I didn't find anything that really looked all that bad. They were dirty, and one or two looked like maybe they weren't touching, but it wasn't on anything that seemed like it would screw up the game. The most questionable was that back one back there. Let's see what it's called. The O button. I don't even know what that is. We'll figure it out later. The O button was tripping. It looked like it was adjusted a little bit too far out. So who knows? But if they were, if they were dirty and not conducting electricity, it would be just as bad. So it could have been something like that. So here we have the score motor. This is the brains of the machine. So basically, there are several of these relays that when they turn on, they turn this thing on. And then depending on, so let's say, I won't give names so that I don't tell you anything that's not true, just theoretically speaking. Let's say there's a thing on the playfield that scores 50 points. So you hit it and it turns on a relay that's maybe the 50-point relay, right? The 50-point relay, when it pulls in, it pulls a wire, a switch together that provides power to this thing. It makes the motor start turning, and once the motor starts turning, there are these little bumps and things on the motor that make all of the switches connect and disconnect and do their thing, blah, 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 blah. All right? So there's a switch on here somewhere. I would imagine it's probably on here. There's a switch on here somewhere that once the thing starts turning, the switch closes and holds the motor running until it gets back to its starting position. On some games there's 2 starting positions, on some games there's 3 starting positions. So sometimes it has to turn all the way around once, sometimes it only has to turn halfway around, sometimes it turns a third of the way around. Okay? But it will run until it gets back to its starting position. When it gets to its starting position, that switch will open back up. And if the relay that pulled in is open to where the switch is no longer closed, then that's not giving it power. And the switch on itself is not giving it power, so it stops running. Okay? So let's say a relay down here pulls in, it turns on the score motor. Score motor starts turning. The relay has a switch connected to turn it on, and maybe another switch connected that's connected to the points or something. Okay? As this turns, it'll connect the switch maybe over here, right? Well, when that switch connects, normally nothing happens. But since the switch is on this relay, the second switch on this relay, it now has power. And so when it connects, it gives you points or whatever. And so that's theoretically how the whole game works. So this is the brains of the game. Without this, you can't score right. You can't do anything right. It can't count the balls right. It won't do anything basically. It's possible to get kind of stuck in the middle of a game with this not moving to where you can just play for forever, but you won't score anything or So you really need the score motor. It's very important. But it has all of these switches stacked on these cams. This front one's really tall. So let's see how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So there are 15 switch blades on that first cam. So if I was just going to guess, 30, 45, 60. There might be 75 or 80 switch blades. Each one of them has a contact on it that needs to be cleaned. Whoa. So we use the same thing. Use a little file to get through there. These are tricky though because it's hard to get to the ones in the middle. So like to clean the contact under this blade in the middle, you kind of have to use a needle file and go through the side, or sometimes you can go through the back. And so we just use a little flashlight so we can see it. So let's say we want to clean inside of there. You can shine a light through the side until you can see it really well. See that switch couple up. Blah, 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 blah. So it takes forever. It's kind of that, and cleaning the actual score reels, in my opinion, are the least favorite parts of working on them. So that's what we'll do. Now, once you get those cleaned, some people have asked, can you just spray them? I guess you could. I usually don't do that because it makes a big mess. I don't know. Contact cleaner might work, but you got to make sure that it doesn't leave a residue. If it's the type of contact cleaner that's all gummy and everything, oh, hell no. Don't get it anywhere near here. But if it's that stuff that leaves no residue and it cleans contacts, that might work, but I've never used it on this, and I wouldn't really want to because of the big mess it would make. But you do you, man. I clean them with a little needle file. And then after you clean them, you have to go through each one of them and make sure that as it goes over the bumps on that cam, that these rise up and touch whatever switch it needs to touch. Like, see that top one? It's not touching now. But when it goes up over the bump, it does touch. It just takes forever to go through it and make sure they're all right. You also want to look on the back and make sure that you don't have a couple blades that are touching each other. Sometimes they have these little plastic insulators on them, but sometimes those will slide off and the blades can actually touch each other. Because if it does that, that's just as good as a stuck switch. So, alright, so I'll work through that. If I find anything weird, I will tape it for you. Okay, folks, I didn't see anything wrong with any of those. I cleaned all of the contacts, though. I didn't see anything misadjusted, or they all seem like they're opening when they should and closing like they should. Most of them look pretty clean, too, so I don't know that that did anything, but now we know. It's 100% until we find something wrong with it. Okay, so the last real thing we have down here is we've got a few Jones plugs. We'll look at those. And then we've got these two stepper units. So this one is the ball unit. The game was stuck on ball in play number 1. So there may be an issue with this, but it wasn't doing anything when I hit the start button, so it wasn't even trying to reset or anything. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. So this is the ball unit, and then I think this is the coin unit, I think they called it on the Bally's. So these steppers are usually your biggest problem. So you've got one coil here that resets it, and one coil down here that when it pulls in, it steps it up one. Looks like it's working pretty good, actually. Let me go around to the other side so you can see it spin while I hit the coils. Okay, so we spun it. That reset it. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 7 positions on the ball unit. I have no clue what the hell that's all about. So that's like home. So that's position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, there's 6 positions. Okay, that makes sense. Alright, so that seems like it's working fine, but the rivets there kind of need cleaned. So I'm going to very carefully clean those off with some sandpaper. But everything is resetting just fine, so there's not really any reason to oil it or take anything apart. We just need to make sure that those rivets are clean. So let me go get some sandpaper and scuff them up a little bit. Okay, folks, you can see it a little bit better. I cleaned up the little rivets, and now let's try it. I put a little synthetic grease on it too. I'll show you that. So it gets all the way back, and it resets all the way back. Something I like to do is just see if it'll reset from every position. Because sometimes the spring is strong enough to reset it all the way, but won't reset it from 1 or 2 clicks because it's just not tightly wound enough. But that looks good. All right, and like we always say, this is the stuff you want to put on there. Synthetic grease. Go for this, people. It's dielectric. It's good for this stuff. We have a link to that stuff on our website. Go check it out. Go to lionsarcade.com. It's on our parts page. We have links to a bunch of the stuff we use whenever we work on these. And if you click any of the links and go buy anything on Amazon, even if it's not what is in the link, like say you go buy a Ferrari on Amazon, if you click our link to the grease and then click off the link to go buy a Ferrari on Amazon, we get 3% of whatever the hell they charge you for your Ferrari. Can you believe that? It's working out great for us. All right, so that's that one. Now we're on to the next one. I think that one's working fine. Let's see if this one is behaving similarly already or if we need to go through it. Now, if you look, it looks to me like somebody serviced it. See the... Yeah, I think somebody's already cleaned it. Might get out easy on this one. Let's see. So if I hit this one, must be the reset one. No, that's the reset one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You see how when I go to so now I'm on position 2, I guess you would see. Watch how when I pull the plunger in, it goes backwards actually. See how it went backwards just a little bit? Then it goes forward. Now watch, it'll do it again. See how it went backwards a little bit? See how it's moving slightly? There's a way to adjust that actually. There's a stop somewhere. I don't know if it actually on that one you can. Sometimes you can adjust that where it won't do that if it's a problem. So keep that in your mind if you ever run into it where it's causing you issues. That's pretty clean, people. I think I'll put a little bit of synthetic grease on it and call it a day. That all looks fine to me. I don't see a problem. Now when you do clean these, make sure you clean the contact actually on the spider too, like on the blade. So you're not just cleaning the wheel, I mean the bakelite, you're also cleaning the contact on the spider too. So I'm going to put just a little bit of grease on it, not a ton, and we'll call that done. And we'll look at the Jones plugs. So the stepper units, if you think about what they're doing, we talked about how like a relay would come on and make the score motor run and blah, 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 and eventually the relay would go back on. Well, if you have something that you need to store as already being accomplished, let's say it that way. So let's say you want to store something that's already been accomplished and never go back, right? Stepper units work good for that. Well, go back after they're reset. But so that's the ball unit. So it's on ball 1, ball number 1, ball number 1, ball number 1. and then the ball and play light is ball number 1, ball number 1, ball number 1. And let's say you've got it set on 5 balls. So it stays in the position that it's in until you get to ball number 2, and then it wants something on it, clicks up to 1. Well, now you're on ball number 2, so now the ball number 2 light's on. Blah, 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 stays on ball number 2, stays on ball number 2. You're not going to go back to ball number 1, at least on this game. Ball number 3, ball number 4, ball number 5. So once you're on ball number 5, they've done them different ways. Sometimes it'll click up one more and that makes game over. Sometimes just turning on the ball number 5 has made it where something else is connected. So if the ball lands in the out hole, it connects through where the fingers are on it and makes the game over relay come on, blah, 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 blah. Just different stuff. Also, that's how they do bonus units. So if you land in this hole, it adds to your bonus. So your bonus is at 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. Like every time you land in the hole, it moves it up once, right? And so now, whenever you score, it starts counting down and gives you 1,000 points for every rivet that it hits on the way down. So it's a way to like kind of store progress. It's almost like the battery of the electromechanical machine. If that's the brains and the CPU, that's the battery or the RAM. Right? Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is the Jones plugs. So there are little plugs that plug in, because that's what plugs do everywhere. And they just have these little male parts and female parts. And you clean these up, make them nice and shiny so that they conduct electricity. These here look pretty damn clean. This is a pretty clean machine, people. What's up with that? I'm used to them being filthy and falling apart. The guy that brought this to us said that it was in horrible shape whenever he got it. So I think he's already done a lot of work to it. It's just not being reliable for him. So we're going through, we're cleaning maybe what hadn't been cleaned, and then we're going to troubleshoot it after we're all done. So you clean these up, scuff them up a little bit with sandpaper. We use really light sandpaper. I think it's 220 grit or something like that. Get them nice and shiny. You can clean the female parts with a bore brush. B-O-R-E. I can't say much more, people. They'll kick me off. You know what I'm talking about. It's for cleaning bores. You know what I'm talking about. Now, if you go to our website, again, we have those on there too. So you can go, we've got the right size on there. Go check it out. I can't remember off the top of my head what size they are, but the ones on our website are the right ones. If you don't want to get those, just go write it down what they are. And also, sometimes you have to retension these, depending on who made them. See how it's a hole and then it wraps around and hits the side of the point too? I can get one to go down in there. So you see, it goes down in, and it's mainly hitting the side of this blade. So if you kind of bend it in a little bit, it makes it where it grabs it a little better. So that's basically what you want to do. And it kind of depends on what they are as to how important that is. The ones over here are the ones for the Playfield. Obviously very important. The ones here go to ultimately the buzzer, the tilt, the fuses, everything. The game will not work if this one's filthy because the fuses will not be connected to anything. Are you sick yet? Okay, and there's a good shot of the posts in the side of it so you can see what I'm talking about. Pretty sweet, huh? Now, on these Ballys of this era, there is a real problem with the freaking fuse holders. So that's an original fuse holder. It's never been changed. The problem is that the blades that hold the fuse get really weak and they break. And if they break, there needs to be spring tension on that fuse to hold it so that power can go through it. If they break, it's no longer doing that. It's not going to work right. So I've got it unplugged. It is not plugged into the wall. There's no juice on this. This is the main fuse. It says it's an 8 amp, so we're going to see how tight it is in that holder. It's in there pretty damn good. Nothing's moving. Sometimes if it's the original ones, though, you need to change it. This is a... We're checking we're checking their homework and see if they put the right one in. This is it's an 8, just like it ought to be. That's an 8 amp fuse. Cool. So here's something you can do if you're not weak of heart. You can squeeze that back together a little bit. But people, be careful. You don't want to snap it. If you squeeze it too hard and the damn thing's weak, it'll break. We got away with it that time though. It's holding it just fine. It's nice and tight. There's no need to change it. And it's fairly clean looking. If it was real rusted and all screwed up, yeah, time to go. But that one's just fine. So we're going to do the same with these 3 over here too. Okay. So same thing. Just check the fuses. Make sure they're the right value. Make sure it's holding the fuse nice and tight. And you're good to go. So I'm going to clean up some Jones plugs. I'll check those last fuses. And then we'll look at the bottom of the Playfield. Folks, we are following behind another repairman who did a great job. The fuses were all the correct fuses. The fuse holders were all holding well. And the Jones plugs were all clean. I can't believe it. I've never seen this, ever. So let me show you. So I got the Playfield back up in there. We're going to pop it in. Right? And again, what are we doing? The thing doesn't work right. We tried it. We couldn't get it to do nothing. And the gentleman was telling us that it wasn't reliable. It would work and then stop working, blah, 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 blah. So we're trying to make it reliable. We're not trying to just track down the one problem. We're trying to find anything that could be a problem. Okay. So here are the Jones plugs. Look how clean. Someone has obviously already cleaned them. And you can't quite see it on the... Well, yeah, you can. You can right there. They almost look polished. So I think they may have used like a tarnish remover or something. Maybe like a chemical, like... what's that old stuff? Somebody was telling me the other day, yeah, you can get it at the grocery store. I can't remember the name of that stuff. It was Tarn-X or something like that. It's for silver, to clean up silver. So they've used, I would assume, something like that, because they're so bright. I mean, they're shiny looking. They're so clean. So that's a hell of a job, whoever did that. I know who did it. It was probably the customer that brought it to us. Okay, so those are ready to plug back in. I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll do that. I don't see anything on this that would keep it from resetting, except maybe the bonus unit if it didn't reset. Let's see if the bonus unit seems like it's stepping up. Oh yeah, so it just moves in one direction. That's not the bonus unit. You know, we had the same problem before, didn't we? That's not the bonus unit. In our other one, we did the same thing. I assume that was the bonus unit, but this is the bonus unit. This one's the, what did they call that? Let me see. The wheel unit. That's what they called it. That's the wheel unit. So it probably doesn't even reset. This is our bonus unit. Let's see what we got. Boy, that's one hell of a bonus unit. It's bonusing the heck out of it. Now, to you long-term viewers, you folks out there that watch every video, and I know there are some of you. This is that one where we had the problem down in there. Remember, there was something worn out that wasn't working right or something. It was all bent up because a screw was loose or something like that. I think it was on that one. Pretty sure. Maybe that was a different game. I think it was this one. But it wasn't this actual one, you know. Just in case I didn't make it clear. This is not the same one we worked on before. This is a completely different machine. Just the same title. Okay, so everything looks cool. We'll probably have to come back and clean all this stuff too. But I kind of want to see if the thing will start now or if we still have a problem in the back box or something. So let me plug those in and then we'll lay the Playfield down and we'll try to start it again and see if we get any different results this time. Okay, folks, so we got it mounted back in there. We still didn't put the hangers on the Playfield that are missing. We'll get some of those, though, for it. But let's turn it on and see if we get anything different. We were getting it to light up before, and that was it. Okay. Did you hear what I heard? The score motor turned around. Now, why would it do that? It's because I've been in there messing around with it. I had it in the wrong spot, apparently, from when I was just turning it by hand. I didn't know where the home position was. So what happened was when we put the power on, that switch I was talking about, the run switch on the score motor, was connected. So as soon as it got power, that thing's connected. So it ran around until it got to home position, and then that opened. And since none of the other relays were holding it on, the score motor on, whenever that switch opened, the motor stopped. So that's what we heard. So when we tried before, it didn't do anything when we hit start. Now, we were just mocking it up to test play it, or try to test play it in the first video. So I reset all of the score reels to 1, just so we could see if it reset them all. Now, you'll notice the last digit's 0. Remember, those are the fake score reels. So I'm going to hit our start button, see if we get anything different. Have we found any problems yet? You know, remember that old, on The Price is Right? They would do something where they try to guess Bob Barker would have him try to guess the prices of the stuff out. And he'd say, do we have at least one price right? And then it would go, ding, 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 or it'd go, or whatever, you know. That's where we're at right now. Did we do anything to help fix it? I'm going to hit the start button. Boy, I found something that helped fix it. We got pretty close, people. So here's our problem. That score reel is not resetting. Now remember, we haven't done anything in the back box yet. So what I'm going to do, just for the sake of the video, because we haven't done the back box yet, I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to move that one back to 0 since it doesn't want to turn on its own. Notice all the other ones reset. So just remind me later, whenever we do the back box, I got to fix that one, okay? Okay, folks, so I cheated. I turned it off, and I reset that one to 0 because it doesn't reset. And I put that one back on 1 so it would have something to reset. So let's try it again. Okay, now we're back where we were because it thinks that it's already started the game. See how it says ball and play 1? So that's where we were before. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to reach in and mess with the ball and play unit to see if I can get it to go to game over or back to 0. I don't know if there's a 0 or whatever. And then we'll try this one more time. Okay, so I lifted the Playfield. I reached in. I stepped the ball and play unit up to 5. It went past 5 and nothing happened. And then when I laid the Playfield back down, the ball rolled back down. It hit something and it clicked game over. So we're in game over mode now, definitely. So let's see if we can get it to start and if it pops the ball out. Okay, cool. So that's what it's been doing. It's reset it back to ball number 1. It resets all the scores, but it never kicked the ball out, and our flippers don't work. Which is basically where we were before. So there's something in it that we don't quite have adjusted right, but that's something we can track down in schematics, so that's no big deal. So now we kind of understand a little bit more what it's doing. Before we were just hitting start, it would be in 1, I hit it again, it'll go to 2-player like it'll do right now. You know, so it thinks that the game has started, but the ball is not coming into play, and the flippers don't work. I think we figured out that the scoring doesn't work too. Yeah. So now we have a little bit more evidence on what must be going on. So we'll figure all that out. But the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to work through the back box. Now, you see it's resetting and everything except for that one. But we're going to make sure everything back there looks good, everything's cool, get it all clean, and then we'll try to troubleshoot it a little bit. We also still have to clean the stuff on the bottom of the playfield. So there's plenty left to do, people. So we'll handle all that next time. Make sure to leave your comments below. Give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you this far. I guess we got a little bit farther along. Maybe. I mean, we know it's all pretty clean now. Still ain't working, though. But we'll get it. So leave your comments below. Let us know what you think. And make sure to check out, if you haven't already, my brother Donnie. That's literally my brother here on YouTube. He has his own channel. And if you like watching us work on these old pinball machines, you would probably enjoy watching us work on old buildings. He's a bigger character than I am. So if you enjoy all of the friendly banter, go check out his channel. He really does some interesting stuff. I'm over there with him a lot of times. We're working on a couple buildings that we bought in this small downtown area near here in a small town. And we're fixing them up, trying to help revitalize downtown of that little town. It's really fun. We have a great time. So we'll see you over there. We appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. This is Bally's Freedom.